Mightier than the sword. English playwright Edward Bulwer Lytton is credited with originating the oft-repeated observation that the pen is mightier than the sword. I do not know that this declaration of superiority is true, but I wish it to be so. I do know that words have great power and that oft-repeated phrases transubstantiate from trite bromides to accepted truths regardless of their veracity. 7 years ago, I wrote Unreasoned Guilt, the death of Sergeant Bill Kennel, a true story that revolves around my uncle's murder at the hands of the Japanese as a World War II POW. This story is one that I heard many times as a child and repeated to my children. As a U.S. citizen born less than 16 years after the end of WW2, I was surrounded by an abundance of anti-Japanese sentiment directed at the chrysanthemum throne, and particularly Hirohito and his dehumanizing subjugation, inhumanity, and arrogance. My father was less than 13 years old when his brother was captured, and WW2 left permanent marks on Dad. I recall clearly how shocked he was when 30 years after the end of World War II, our Jewish neighbors purchased a German Mercedes-Benz, declaring, "I don't know how Barb and Herb can do that. I will never buy a Japanese car." In addition to my father's family immortalizing and beatifying my Uncle Bill, the zeitgeist of Middle America was blatantly racist. And though my parents were progressive and believed in equality for all, they, like all of us, were products of their time. In January 2020, I wrote Shaped by Nazis, where I stated, a significant part of what shaped me was the Scheitstone of movies that depicted the horrors of the Axis powers that simultaneously glorified the role of the beneficent allies. In the 1960s, boys went outside and played army, meaning we took our toy guns and hand grenades and shot the crap out of each other. And no red-blooded American kid would ever think about playing a German, Italian, or shudder, Japanese. Our Hollywood CinemaScope pop culture shaped me, but it was 20-plus-year-old newsreel from Berlin that really made me who I am. My elder son Kevin took Japanese in high school, and during his 2008-2009 senior year, he came to me and cautiously asked if we could host a Japanese foreign exchange student for 2 weeks. I told him that would be terrific, and he seemed shocked. When I asked him why, he fumbled out words concerning my contempt for the Japanese. Shocked and heartbroken, I told him, whoa, whoa, whoa. No, buddy, not one bit. What the Japanese Empire did to my Uncle Bill was barbaric, but I no more hold the children and grandchildren of Japan's Imperial Army responsible for what their ancestors did than I hold you responsible for the atomic bombs the U.S. dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Please, volunteer for us to host. Yusuke Fukuyama's visit was lovely and came the same year my mother died. It was soon thereafter that my wife and I purchased our first Japanese car, a Toyota, something we had not done in reverence to Bill and deference to Dad. We're on our third Toyota. It was Yusuke who introduced me to the full moon having a rabbit rather than a man on it. This is clearly true to anyone who looks at Celine with open eyes. Yusuke also appears in some of my fiction. Do I harbor hatred or contempt for Asians? I do not. My first non-Caucasian friend was Japanese heritage classmate Greg Valentine back at Oakland Elementary in Bloomington, Illinois in the 1960s. A doppelganger of his who bears the same name and heritage appears in some of my Joe Clean stories. Do I harbor racist ideas? Of course I do. As stated in paragraph 4, we are all products of our place and time. The hate crimes being committed against people of Asian heritage in the USA are a direct result of the xenophobia and white supremacist cancer spewed by Donald Trump in his manipulation of the hateful and the feeble-minded. The USA is, or was, better than this. We must rediscover our better selves and embrace Thomas Jefferson's edict concerning equality among all men. We can do better. We must do better. Now is the time to denounce hate and embrace diversity.